is Ben Reilly. I'm related to this reality's Peter Parker. How? I'm his clone. Or maybe he's my clone. We're not sure. This dimension's Peter Parker had it pretty rough. He had already lost Uncle Ben. Then Aunt May passed away. That nearly unbalanced his mind. But then Parker's path crossed with a brilliant scientist, an expert in genetic cloning. His name was Miles Warren. I see you've met him. Well, he cloned Spider-Man. To make matters worse, the clone escaped. I thought I was that clone. I tried to stay out of Peter's life by taking on a new identity. I dyed my hair, changed my name to Ben Reilly. But I had no memory of where I really came from. Warren had robbed me of my past.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Wars. Prepare for Prattle.
Welcome to A Clone in the Dark, a podcast that attempts to untangle the dark web that enshrouds the Clone Saga's most divisive character. Ben Reilly, I'm your co-host Spider-Dan. I am joined by the Clone Tones, Tony Farina and Tony Holt Jr. to make some, if any, sense of Marvel's most controversial and convoluted storyline. And we're back again. We were supposed to do Page of Apocalypse, but that didn't happen, so we've got more Clone Saga goodness coming right at you. We're carrying on from where we left off. Now, we've done the preamble. We've done the beginnings of Ben Reilly, but now Peter Parker is back, and we're tackling this as he tackles his clone head-on into this storyline. But before we start, Tony Farina and Tony Holt Jr., we got some fan art from our very own Spider fan, Math, sent us a picture. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll have sent it to you already. You'll already seen it. But he sent it in colour and in black and white. It was the Sons of the Jackal. It's a wonderful little picture. Again, I'll share it again if you guys missed it on the emails. I sent quite a lot of emails.
I saw it. I loved it. Oh, still good.
So thank you, Math. I really appreciate you doing that. Again, it's just 3 Spider-Men in the background. Somebody on the drums, somebody on the bass, someone on the guitar. I think it's Peter, Kane, and Ben all jamming out as the Sons of the Jackal, which I absolutely love. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that, Math. I wanted to start that. Thank you straight away before we get started in all of this crazy cloneness.
I feel like we need to make those shirts.
Well done.
Like, right?
Well done.
We need to wear them as band shirts. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm here for it.
We'll get somebody to design it. We'll sort it out. We've got many artists. We could get Math to do it. Absolutely. We could get him to design
we could just use his design and get it on a shirt.
We'll send him some money. We'll send him some money. We'll do it.
I'm here for that.
Let's do it. Yeah. We'll we'll do that. But yes, we are back. Before we get started, we are going to talk about Power and Responsibility. We're going to talk about the Exile Returns and Back from the Edge, 3 story arcs. But before that, I wanted to just set everything up before we get fully into those storylines. So as we were talking, there was a little bit of a tease. There was some cameos by Ben prior to him appearing full on in the book. So there was teasers on who he was. I talked about the Midtown ring that we see him wear in these cameos. There is somebody who conveniently every so often learns about May having a stroke, and she goes into hospital where we know she is now currently, and we're going to talk about that. So she has a stroke, and there's somebody periodically from the Reilly family calling in and just checking up on what's going on, what Peter's up to, what Mary Jane's up to, how May is, and he learns that she has a stroke, and he comes running. He's like, I never want to return to New York, but I'm going back. And he visits all the old haunting grounds. He visits like Gwen's grave, Uncle Ben's grave, Midtown High. He visits May's house, and he's even caught invading the house by Peter. But Peter doesn't get a good look at him. He gets out. And Peter then discovers our favourite retcon device, Tony, if you remember when we did the original Clone Saga, the Journal of Miles Warren.
Ooh,
and if Ben was reading that, or if Peter was reading that, they would know that Ben currently is not Ben. It is Anthony Serber, a victim of the replicator virus, the carry-on replicator virus.
Yeah.
And Joyce Delaney, the Gwen, is no longer Gwen because she's Joyce Delaney. So really, the writers all, Peter's in such a place mentally that he doesn't even know or remember. He's in such a bad place at this time that he doesn't even notice, or Ben doesn't notice, because he would be having his own identity crisis, which he already is, but another one on top of that. So so it's interesting to know that the writers are like, they're acknowledging it, but also don't want to confront that problem head on. They want to just be like, he's a clone. He's definitely a clone. We're not going to touch any of that.
We don't even know. What are you talking about? I even know what.
Yeah, we're not talking about Jerry Conway's.
What are you talking about?
What are we talking about? We'll talk about. But yes,
I don't even know what a smokestack is. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what you're talking about.
The clone of
the
smokestack.
Brilliant convolutions of retcons.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh man.
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're just confusing. But yes, so we won't get into that ourselves just yet. That's for much later down the line, boys. Don't worry, we will get back to it. But at this point, Peter is in a very dark place, and we're going to see that in these story arcs. He's had his parents return, but they turned out to be robots, unfortunately. Months and months of them being in his life, because apparently they were in a Russian gulag. So apparently in the comics, they were killed by the communist Red Skull, which again did happen, didn't happen. Depends on the movable timeline when they actually die. And however, they were agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I believe, for a while, but who knows? They died. End of.
We tried really hard to work this into the Garfield Spider-Man.
They did,
first.
yeah, absolutely. You're right. Yeah, they did have they have the plane crash. They die. The kind of there's some undercover espionage stuff going on with the science and Oscorp. So yeah, there is. They try and but a lot of people argue that it's less relatable having super spy parents as he is, being a kid from Queens. So they kind of a lot of the time they avoid using that. But not only has that happened, so the chameleon and the vulture have ended up revealing this, and actually he chased the chameleon down because he thought he was responsible, only for it to be revealed that Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin was ultimately responsible for that heartbreak and another one of his gotcha moments. But however, Harry Osborn at this point in time is dead. He has already died, so Spider-Man can't even confront Harry Osborn for the loss of his parents yet again. The vulture's in jail. The chameleon has had a mental breakdown. He's having his own identity crisis because he feels like he's nothing. He's just a copy of everybody else. So that's where we are now. Aunt May's in the hospital, ultimately, very close to death. Mary Jane is struggling, being married to Peter and all of that. So we're in a real dark place. And not only that, Ben is now going to come into the picture and potentially take his life from him, even though he doesn't want it, because he is trying to divorce himself from the Peter Parker identity because it's causing him so much pain, agony. He's trying to just be the spider, this scary elemental creature. Very J.M. DeMatteis idea.
Right, because this is post-Secret Invasion, right? This is post Black
post Craven's Last Hunt. So yeah,
Craven's
there's a lot of elements in Craven's Last Hunt that are being carried over.
Right.
Like Spider-Man when he chased down the chameleon, who is the stepbrother of Craven, he almost killed him with Craven's grave. He thought he's going to throw it, smash his head in, only for him to reveal it's Harry. It was Harry's machinations that caused this. But yes, so long story short, this is where we are right now as Ben is coming back. I've set it up shop for you, Tony, Farina, to give us the synopsis for Power and Responsibility.
So, as we know, our friend Peter is in a bad place, and our friend Ben is now it'd be cyber stalking, but is actual stalking Aunt May. And not really. He's just like standing there feeling sad because his Aunt May is in the hospital. Aunt May. This whole Clone Saga could be called. The subtitle could be "The Fridging of Aunt May." That's what it could be called. That the whole time. Math. If you could make that happen, if we could get Aunt May.
Let's see the fridging of Aunt May. Give us your image.
So the whole emotional beat of this whole thing is Aunt May's illness, right? Because she is the beating heart of the Spider-Verse, and so. Sure, I get it. So anyway, so Ben is back. It is the thing that gets him back to New York. So the Power and Responsibility of the three we're going to discuss is really the only time they're on page together.
Correct.
For real. They're sort of like glancing past each other, and these books were flip books. They were in the same books.
They were, yeah. So the double which we covered last time was part of these books. Yeah,
correct. And so they there's sort of a two-part story in Power and Responsibility. As you said, Peter's unsure if he wants to be Peter, or if he just wants to be the Spider, and Mary Jane is going through some stuff because she's like by Aunt May's side, and she's got her own family drama that's happening, and that Peter's not there, but Ben is there, and other things are happening. And so then Peter and Ben meet, and in typical superhero fashion, the first time you meet, what do? You fight.
Of course you fight.
Standard.
You fight. Come on. What would happen if they were just like, hey, that's weird, you look like me? No. But it can't just be, that's just not enough. This is the Marvel universe. The Marvel way just isn't two clones sitting around talking. Meanwhile, at Ravenscroft, the Arkham Asylum of Peter Parker's world,
quite clearly,
Dr. Kafka, thank you very much, madam. I appreciate that for your surprise plot twist. She, her group of criminally insane have been overtaken by Judas the Traveler, which is no relation to Blues Traveler. Judas Traveler shows up, and then Peter is faced with a terrible choice. He either has to stop Judas Traveler and free all of the criminally insane, or let Judas Traveler essentially kill the criminally insane. So he has to go do that. And then Ben, this is when we learn what kind of guy Ben is. And so then they go from fighting to super team up, and there is definitely a lot of webs. So that's it.
Certainly.
That's what happens. Yeah,
you are not wrong. That was very concisely put. Better than my synopsis of the prologue to this story.
No.
There was a lot to cram in there.
There's a lot going on in 4 issues.
There is. I think there's a lot going on in these 3 arcs, to be honest. Again, we retread a lot of stuff, like I said last time, but it's still good stuff. Tony Holt, tell us what you thought of Power and Responsibility.
Power and Responsibility. I like this because, of course, I love a Marvel team up, right? And to see the 2 Parker brothers, the 2 Parker clones, Ben and Peter, original Spider-Man and the Scarlet Spider, come together to fight a new rogues gallery, if you will. That's just the comic book stuff of my dreams. I kind of like the twist of Judas Traveler. I always think of Judas Priest when I think of Judas Traveler and the. And his band of misfits. I really like the twist where you don't really know what Traveler's deal is, why he's there, why he wants to release these criminals and force Peter and Ben's hand. I think that's all a great comic book drama. And then, of course, a new rogues gallery, a new crew of villains coming from the asylum. Can't beat that.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I really enjoyed this one as well. I think this is just solid comic book storytelling. You've got again, it is very Batman-esque, but I think like J.M. DeMatteis does that, and there's, I like it. And it works to a degree, but I can see why some people might be like, this is a Batman story, not a Spider-Man story. I can see the criticism, but I thought you've got some of the best Marvel artists. Sal Buscema, who recently passed away, R.I.P., one of the kind of OG Marvel artists. You'll have seen his classic punch where he draws a guy punching somebody and the person being punched is flying towards the camera, so to speak. Again, I'll show that on the video, some images of that. Classic, one of the best artists ever to draw the Hulk, I think, if not the best Hulk artist. You've got Mark Bagley in there, one of my favourites. I think Tom Lyle and Scott Hanna, and somebody else as well. I'm forgetting their name. I'll look it up in a moment. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it's strong storytelling. You've got the psychological element. You've got Peter kind of going through this gauntlet psychologically, mentally, physically, trying to save these people who, again, at this point, he's kind of like, should I just let them die? I don't know. Am I the Spider? Am I Peter? I'm not really sure. But then we also have this new strange, set of rogues. And again, I appreciate the kind of diversity they're bringing in at this point. Like, there's a lot of female villains being introduced, a lot of villains of color as well. And even Judas Traveler has this kind of Roma Romani style kind of edge to him, and his host of various kind of characters. They're very unique and interesting in their own way. They've got their own little edge. But yeah, it's quite mysterious, and I don't know if maybe too mysterious. Like, he's got this amazing power set. He's super strong. He can, make people fall asleep and create mystical barriers. He can, phase through walls, all this kind of stuff going on. But is he too powerful? Perhaps, maybe. I don't know. Is he more of a Batman villain than a Spider-Man villain? Does he fit? I don't know. Miles may vary, but I have to say I just enjoyed the story completely. I was fully invested. What about you, Tony F?
Yeah, go, Tony. You go.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You were going to comment.
I was going to say, I totally agree that Traveler's OP, right? He's definitely overpowered. He seems more like a plot device than anything, right? Like, all of these different power sets, all of this ability to control, this somehow clairvoyant knowledge of he knows who's going to do, like, that's too much. That's too much.
Sure.
I get where it says, like, this is more like a Batman story because you've got all this intrigue and what's happening behind the scenes that you don't know, that you usually don't see in a Spider-Man.
All of the villains you see in there are reflective of something of Spider-Man, much like Batman's reflective of Arkham Asylum and those villains. So I can definitely see the connective tissue there. But again, I still enjoyed it in its own right. But yeah, I can see why some people might not be too keen on this character or this storyline based purely on that. But I was in. I was totally in.
Yeah, and I think all of that. Okay, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of Ra's al Ghul there, Ra's al Ghul, however you choose to say it, friends. But I mean, it's clearly there, and but because we know we have to get two Spider-Men together, and I'm sorry, one regular schlubby bad guy is no match for two Spider-Mans, right? There's not. It's not.
Good point.
To me, if you're gonna do that, you can't. And we see Carnage is in here. Like, everybody's, there's little bits and pieces. We got lots.
Your
of
favorite character, Tony. Your favorite.
There's lots of symbiote action throughout these three arcs, and I'm not a big symbiote fan. I mean, I loved the original black suit on the original.
Sure.
Like, I loved that stuff. But it's what it is.
We've got a planet of symbiotes coming up, Tony.
I can't wait. I know, I'm super excited. But
oh man, you are really not a symbiote fan.
That may be the shark that jumped for me. We'll get there when we get there. But But what I will say, so to me, that's why it's okay. I get what you're saying, Tony Holt. He's definitely overpowered. But knowing that you have to have Ben and Peter fighting together, it can't just, like, one of them is not a match. Like one guy is a match for two. Even it's not, because Peter isn't depowered. If anything, you could say Peter is almost enhanced because he's with the Peter away, with no Peter to regulate him, with no, with no Ben Parker in his ear.
Responsibility.
Correct. There's no, and he's just all power.
All power.
That's the title.
All
so
power.
I did, though. I did this line. I thought says it all about Judas Traveler. So here's the line. This is from part 2, I think, part 2 or 3 of this. It says, this is right at the beginning, front page, typical Stan Lee. Let me retell you what's going on, kids. Here's what it says. Rarely has the man known as the Judas Traveler rarely been so pleased with himself. A world-renowned philosopher and psychologist, he's devoted years, far more than the academic community even imagines, to the study of human nature, with a special focus on man's capacity for evil! Exclamation point in red, evil. And I was like, that is everything we need to know about this guy. Like that, in that paragraph, that is the most Stan Lee thing. If you walked in on issue 3 of Power and Responsibility, you're like, got it. This Judas Traveler guy understood. The end. So you don't have to know. It's just like, he's that guy. This is what he is. I mean, there's always a good supervillain. We talked about why I like Miles so much is because, like the mad scientist. This is I also think, again, using science as whatever, but like being that he's a philosopher and a it's not just that he's a psychologist, he's also a philosopher. So he's trying to understand the nature of things. And so he's got clones that he gets to play with. I mean, you can't get more nature versus nurture. He's a psychologist. You can't get more understanding what the soul is. He's a philosopher. So to me, he is a good fit, overpowered for sure, but a good fit for us to come at now that Ben and Peter are both in the world, having a guy like that at the heart of it makes a lot of sense, because as we know and as we talk about, Peter's struggling with his psychological identity. Ben is struggling with who he is at his soul, at his core. All of his memories are Peter's memories. He loves Mary Jane. He remembers Gwen dying. He,
Yeah.
And so, but does he have a soul? Who is he? And this is why the Cain stuff is so interesting, because Cain is also all of that, but he's like, soulless prick, which is, interesting. So anyway, there's my defense of the Judas Traveler a little bit.
Yeah. And again, like I don't really have an issue with him in this storyline.
Yeah.
But I think the fandom say that maybe that Judas Traveler is a microcosm of the problems that we would see throughout the saga, throughout the Clone Saga. Like it starts here. Again, I don't know if I fully agree with that, but I can see where they're coming from, that it's kind of vague and it's retconny and it's like, did this happen? Did this not happen? Is he real? Is he not? Is he actually Judas Traveler, or is he something else? Who knows? And then, we will find out eventually. He does turn up again, don't worry, we're going to see him a few more times before the end. But yeah, I think there's a lot of criticism of the character, purely because, again, he's linked to this storyline and people don't like this storyline, so therefore I do not like that character. I think there is a lot of that kind of, again, just because they are tangentially connected to this thing that people do not like or do not care for, therefore the character is bad.
Also, shout out to the liberal arts for making the most complex, loved, and hated heroes and villains in the universe.
Yeah.
Psychology, philosophy, human nature. Yeah.
Those bedfellows.
I do. I think that's such a great point, Tony. I think that's really well said. I mean, because it is, and that's the thing. Look, we know that this is a big risk, and there's definitely some parts of the Clone Saga as we go. I think it starts stronger and ends weaker as it goes. But isn't that the case with most things? I mean,
sure.
Angel is one of the few times where the last season is the best, right? Like very rarely does something like that happen, where you're not like, man, season 15 of ER was way better than season 1. Nobody has ever said that.
Case of diminishing returns.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but here we are at the beginning, we're at the dawn of the 90s Clone Saga, right? So they're coming in hot. And the thing that you can say about this, like him or don't like him, to Tony's point, they gave you something that is spanning of all things. And so as we learn more, I mean, they don't just come in, and what I appreciate is that there's no ending here. Like we didn't like, we're going to wrap this up in 4 issues, and then we're going to James Bond bad guy explanation at the end, and we're out. Peace out. And you're like, now he's locked up in the mental institution.
Yeah, exactly.
The end.
Yeah.
If it were a Batman story, and as a Batman fan drinking from my Batman mug, and I've got my Robin cup right here, I'm just going to say that's how a Batman story would end.
Yeah,
right? We're just gonna lock Professor
He's the detective,
Pig
isn't he? So
up.
if it's not solved, the case isn't solved, then you could argue it's not a Batman story. So, but Spider-Man is far from a detective, especially at this point when he's just dribbling into his mask in a metallic straitjacket, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, screaming, and again, there's some beautiful artwork from Bagley and some of the artists on here, just like the absolute kind of internal struggle that Spider-Man's having, just shown visually, like the thought boxes, not bubbles. We're in the 90s, the boxes now. We got rid of the bubbles. We're into boxes. So I love that it's just loads of different little words, just all kind of spread and jumbled up like a jigsaw puzzle. Just little things like that just evoke so much for me. Like just to give you an idea of where his head's at, which is a complete, it's just a mess at the moment. And you do kind of feel for him, and you kind of understand as well where he's coming from. Like, yes, if he didn't have, it's the whole, again, the Batman You know, Batman would just be this kind of demonic figure if he didn't have Bruce Wayne like that. And like Superman would go mad if he didn't have Clark Kent. Like Peter's going mad because he doesn't have Peter now. So there's these two sides, the dichotomy of it. Like he can't be the two things, and he's trying to find a way to balance those two sides of his life, no matter how painful it is, because they have crossed over. You know, Harry is the villain and he's also his best friend. You know, it's the worlds have crossed too much. They become too entangled for him to cope, which is, again, I think, you know, throughout these stories we're going to talk about today, we definitely see that in Peter's side of things. And yeah, I love that aspect to it. Again, we've got the fun, the action, you know, we've even got a character called Wild Whip who worked at a circus. I think he does turn up again. And he's like, oh, somebody with a mask beat me once. And Ben's like, oh, that was me. Don't tell him, but that was me. He was in a mask. I didn't know who he was, but I'm here now, and I'm going to use my circus trickery to get you. You know, I'm like, okay, well, good. We probably, I don't think we see Wild Whip again. But if we did, great stuff. But yeah, of all the new characters, all the new villains, or the new creations, I was like, Wild Whip can go in the bin. We've got Whiplash, Blacklash, whatever you want to call him. We've got him. I don't think we need Wild Whip to join in the whippy generation of villains.
He needs to go hang out with their distant cousin, Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Yeah.
Ooh, you got some pie, eh? Can I have a piece?
Sure.
Ooh, let me have some of that Cool Whip.
What'd you say?
You can't have a pie without Cool Whip.
Cool Whip?
Cool Whip, yeah.
You mean Cool Whip?
Yeah, Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
You're saying it weird. Why are you putting so much emphasis on the H?
What are you talking about? I'm just saying it. Cool Whip. You put Cool Whip on pie. Pie tastes better with Cool Whip.
Say whip.
Whip.
Now say Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
You're eating hair!
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, very random kind of like, oh, look at this. And I think that is to kind of layer that Ben has, you know, been doing stuff. He's not just been, like, sat on his arse, you know, watching TV. He has actually been doing heroic stuff, not as a Spider-Man, but still, you know, within the Lost Years, we know that he has, you know, gotten to be heroic at points when he's needed to be. So I think that is a kind of another little nugget that they would explore later. I do like as well that because they're clones, Peter's spider sense doesn't go off when Ben's there. It doesn't trigger because they're the same guy. Why would you know, your own worst enemy, I guess, or not, seemingly. And there's a moment later on with Spider Sense I want to bring up as well, because I think it's a good little nugget of continuity there. But yeah, what do we think to Traveller's host, all of those characters, Boone and Chakra and Medea and Mr. Nact, I think he was called? What do we think to those characters?
You know, I'm all about the weird and strange, the diversity of characters. I'm all about the underhyped, underplayed heroes and villains. I love the ones that don't get enough attention and screen time.
Sure.
Right.
You're on the right podcast.
I'm a huge fan.
You're on the right podcast.
Yeah. I love the niche ones. So and then again, it adds to that. It adds that feeling of being overpowered, right? Not only does Traveler have all these crazy powers, he comes with a team that seems to have all these off the wall powers that would confuse and stymie most heroes, and just add to that layer of complexity, as well as the ridiculosity of this guy coming from nowhere with a giant team of nobodies that can do almost anything. I love it, and I'm also like, really?
And they've all got their own skills. One's a hunter, one can astral project. Chakra, I think she was called Chakra, wasn't she?
She's the one. To me, the thing I love about Chakra, and if you would think every time I saw her, I was singing Shaka Khan, let me rock you, Shaka Khan, you'd be right. That's what every time she came up. Chakra Khan, let me rock you, Shaka Khan. I wish, like in the movie version, that would be her playing song every time she projected, and I would then have her look like Shaka Khan as well.
Why not?
Hallowed be thy name, Shaka Khan. But what I love about Chakra is also, as part of what Tony's saying, is like, we don't know anything about them. There's just like this new band of ne'er-do-wells, but she's a traitor in their midst, right? She's not on his side because she projects. Now, you could argue she's projecting to get them there, like she's luring them. But I don't know. Like, I can read her as being earnest, like she's legit doesn't want to do the villainry. Do you know what I mean? Because she projects to Peter, and then later she goes to get Ben. And to be fair, and I understand that's Judas Traveler's big plan is to have them there, but also 2 Spider-Men. But that's not your odds. You a bunch of nobodies, right? You're like Justice League Europe, right?
Yeah.
Come on, this is not. You guys are not these guys, and so to pretend that you guys could take down 2 Spider-Men, that doesn't make any sense. So I sort of read Chakra. You can read her as an interesting character in the midst of it all, where there is some backstory to these characters who just have appeared out of nowhere, out of whatever somebody's fever dream of like, hey, let's do clones and make it like Batman and make a bunch of wacky characters. I mean, it's almost like, to be fair, it's a little more like Flash's Rogues Gallery than Batman's Rogues Gallery, right? There's some weird stuff. There's a Boomerang guy who shows up later. So it's like,
I think so. Yeah.
In the Spider-Man Unlimited, there's the Boomerang.
I forgot to mention Skria. Skria's important as well. The kind of ghostly, death-like figure.
Right.
He's kind of part of the host, but not really, but kind of, sort of. But again, that's a whole another kettle of fish we'll get into.
Yeah.
But he's seemingly quite powerful as well, almost on the level of Traveler. But yeah, that's another character I forgot to bring up. But yeah, like, I don't particularly hate them or care for them. They're there, they help with it, bring out the action scenes. We've also got to remember they've got a huge asylum full of villains, including Wild Whip. Big shout out to Wild Whip, and Shriek's in there, Chameleon, Carnage as well. That Carnage is on his own. I know you're not a fan, Tony, but he's a powerful character, and even at the end, Spidey questions like, how did we manage to, beat Carnage so easily? Like, he seemed to just kind of fold. They didn't use sound or, the sonics or heat or anything. They just kick him in the face and that's it. He's down for the count. And they're like, is that a Traveler thing? How did Ben survive the explosion of the limousine? It's like, did he get away? Traveler also postmarks a postcard, a letter saying, "Oh, I can't turn up. I can't help you with your asylum running." Bye. So they're like, "Is he even Judas Traveler?" He teleports them outside. So it's all very kind of questionable and like, ooh, spooky. But again, I was here for it. I don't have many critiques of this story. I think it was fun. There's a lot going on. I love that moment as well when Peter's going a bit too hard on the inmates. He's like really punishing the inmates, and Ben's like, "Who are you? What's happened to you? Why are you so bitter and cold?" And he goes, "Oh, this is just the way life's turned out for me." And he's like, "Have I changed, or have you changed, or we both changed? Like, we're the same person. We're the same guy." And there's that moment where he's like, "If you don't want your life, I'll happily take it," which I thought was like, and that's his kind of wake up call. He goes like, "No, I do want it. This is my life. I do want it." And again, he's still struggling with that, but I love that moment where he kind of confronts him, going, "If this is your greatest fear of me taking your life, then I will do it. If you are, giving it up, I'll take every part of it, and I'll be very happy to be married to Mary Jane, and to look after Aunt May and do all this other stuff." I thought that's just wonderful, again, a microcosm of everything that's going on in these 4 issues for these 2 characters. But yeah, great little story. Anything else we want to say about Power and Responsibility? No? So I'm just going to go through a few continuity notes before we get to the next storyline. So it is the first in-canon use of the name Ben Reilly. We also see Anna Watson comes back. She appears to Mary Jane in her time of need. And Mary Jane is going to go home and put things right with her family. And she throws up on the plane. I wonder what that would indicate. And then... Yeah, pretty much. Oh, yeah, Ben's mask repairs in between issues. So it gets torn in issue 3
it's very Tom
and issue 4. It's issue 4.
Yeah.
So I get the Marvel no prize for noticing that. So if I wrote in, they'd be like, "You get the no prize, you've noticed the mistake." So yes, Power and Responsibility. I think we're all pretty happy with that. I think it was a good kicking off to the Clone Saga, I think. Again, apart from the retroactive stories we've done already.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, the lost years.
What?
I don't know why we've lost them already. They've gone. They are yet to be released. Those stories, or some of them were, some of them weren't.
Yeah.
But yes, let's move on. So this podcast is all about Ben Reilly. The Exile returns. Tony Holt Jr. Tell us about this story.
Ben Reilly, my favorite. The Exile returns, where we actually get the birth of the Scarlet Spider.
Yes.
One of my favorite incarnations of Spider-Man. Ben Reilly, one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Universe. This one is awesome. If I like to position this one as if the Lost Years was about Ben Reilly becoming more than a clone, wanting to become the man, The Exiles is about Ben Reilly realizing he has to become a hero, or that it's time for him to become the hero that he's battling against. So as far as the story goes at a high level, this is when Ben Reilly actually returns to New York from his travels across the country. I love the opening scene where we see him visiting the American Museum of Natural History. Shout out to all those museums out there. Talking about how much he loves being back in New York. We get the first glimpse of what will be the iconic piece of the Scarlet Spider costume, that blue Spider-World t-shirt, the blue Spider-World sweatshirt, the merch in the American History Museum. And of course, we've got all of Ben going back and forth about how he's a clone, not wanting to be the hero, but recognizing that with great power comes great responsibility. The rest of this story arc just covers Ben both battling with his nature, battling with his desire to stay out of Peter's life, yet still realizing that there is part of him where he has to be a hero, as well as battling everyone's favorite character, Venom. Venom makes his also in this story. Right? The second exile, if you will, returns in this story as we have
correct.
Venom coming back from San Francisco after having made a pact with Parker that he would stay out of his way in his lawless protector phase and his anti-hero phase. We've got Venom jumping on the scene in New York, visiting his old haunts, violently stopping criminals. I think the first one is he catches some bank robbers on a high-speed chase and literally causes a crash. And we've got him coming back, visiting all his old haunts. Again, warring with the hero or the anti-hero he wants to be and his murderous past. Of course, Ben Reilly finds out who Venom is, that Venom is back, wonders why Spider-Man never stopped him, and at this point vows, after seeing some innocents fall, after having a chance to relive that fateful night of Gwen, of Gwen Stacy falling off the Brooklyn Bridge, being tossed off the Brooklyn Bridge. He has a chance to catch a jumper who jumps off the Brooklyn Bridge, saves her life, and realizes there is something still for him to do to be a hero, and he vows to stop Venom where Spider-Man couldn't. The rest of the time through the story arc is him chasing down Venom, Venom chasing after Spider-Man. We get another symbiote, Scream, who shows up, one of Venom's offspring that he hates. Right? More symbiotes. Scream coming in to try and help herself / help Venom / help Spider-Man / fight everyone. And we also get Kane, who pops up out of nowhere, watching.
First canon appearance of Kane.
Right? Oh, this is the first Kane. I did not realize that.
Yeah, first canon appearance of Kane.
We get Kane in the shadows. We get Kane as the lawless mercenary that he is. And then we get another glimpse of a few other ancillary characters. Ken Ellis, the intrepid reporter trying to climb the ranks of the Daily Bugle, who actually names our new hero, the Scarlet Spider. We get a flash of the Grim Hunter, Craven the Hunter's son, who vows at his father's grave to kill all Spider-Men who have sullied his family name. We get a flash of Detective Jacob Raven in Utah as he gets a tip of someone who is killing, leaving the mark of Cain in New York, and Jacob Raven deciding after 2 years of this murderer eluding him, he's going to New York to find him. And then we get a flash of a few different crime families, specifically the Thorpe crime family, who want Spider-Man out of their way so they can do their dirty, dastardly deeds. All of this culminates in Ben Reilly doing what no one else has done before. He actually stops Venom through a mix of engineering as well as a little bit of luck. He's through the newest tool in the Spider-Man arsenal, impact webbing, a wonderful invention. He's actually able to separate the symbiote from Eddie Brock, stop the two of them, and is hailed as the hero that's the Scarlet Spider will become. And at that point, he decides there may be a place for him in New York in this hero.
Couldn't have put it better myself. What an excellent synopsis. You covered it all. Yeah. You said it all.
You did?
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
What a storyline. Now Tony Farina with Venom and Scream being in this quite a lot. Did you still get some fun? Did you appreciate the story?
I did, because it is, as Tony said, it is very this is Ben's origin. This is the true Scarlet Spider origin. And so I love that it's a reporter. I like that it's Ken Ellis. I mean, I think that's really smart. That's the right way to do it. That's how these things work. Still to this day, like, we don't do newspapers the way that we used to, but still, like, monikers stick and then they become that thing. And so I think that's really important to, like, because, you don't want to be Kane and name yourself, right? Yeah. You're like, you know what I mean? You want somebody to give you the name. And like Ben reluctantly takes it. Ben is still a reluctant hero. This is all a hero's journey. So if you're going to give him somebody to fight against, Venom is a good person to fight against. You're not throwing him up there against, like somebody who's a little lower powered or somebody who's a little too easy to beat. So and then there's that ultimate Spider-Man, like, little side quest where he helps a homeless guy and he just beats up some, like, guys in the street. You could have gone that way, right? That scene is also straight out of, like, Highlander. Like, that whole scene is like, wait, wasn't this actually a scene in the first Highlander where there's, like, I'm walking past an alleyway and I'm seeing something, I should go intervene? It's the Kurgan, don't! No, that is not what happened. But, like, what I love about the whole Ben, everything Tony said, this is where you understand why Ben is Tony's favorite character, because he's such a good guy. He's very Nightwing. He's very, does it because it's the right thing to do. Does it because he can help. And he can't, this is he's the power and responsibility stuff. He can't let that go. And this is when you understand how good of a job Miles did. Because, like, dude, you remembered this. Like, you didn't live this. Peter lived this. You're literally, you didn't have this, but the memories are so they're visceral for him. So, yes.
Absolutely.
It's not that I dislike having Venom or Scream or whatever you want to have in. It's when, like, I personally don't think they're enough to have their own world, to have their own story. I don't care. I just don't care. Like, as a counterpoint to Peter, I'm here for it. And if they're in a Spider-Man thing, it's different. Like,
sure, yeah.
Venom
you don't want
by
to spin
themselves.
off. You don't want to spin off the Venom.
I didn't need it. I did right. It's not. You know what I also don't want? Like, I don't want to watch, like, a whole. And I know this is what they did in the Harley Quinn comic. They did give a Kite Man spinoff because that's a joke, right? Yeah. The Kite Man spinoff on the Harley Quinn animated series is because that's absurd. Yeah. That's sort of how I feel about Venom. And I know that's an unpopular opinion. I just okay, I get it, and it's fine. I still enjoyed it thoroughly. I did love that the woman who Peter saved was clearly, like, walked right out of a Brontë novel. And
I was going to say that. I was like,
what year is this? That was amazing.
This is literally what I was going to. I was like, Tony will notice this. Tony will notice the fashion of this lady. Yeah. It was like she was a ghost or something. Like, you never get an explanation of why she's dressed like that.
You think that, right? Because he's remembering Gwen, and then he sees this woman, and I'm like, oh, this is a dream. He's going to wake up because she's literally from 1847. Nope.
Yeah.
She just happened to be dressed in her old Victorian nightgown on the top of the Brooklyn Bridge. I was like, okay, well, glad you were there. Solid. And, I like Greer. I like Greer. Like, I like her. She appears in this.
She will. Right? Yeah, she does. Yeah, she's a very minor character, like Gavin Thorpe.
I like
but will turn up again.
Yeah. And I just want to say, as a side note, because I didn't have those big ones that I got that Tony Holt owns, I returned those to the library. So I actually looked at some digital versions. When I was a reader, when I was a young man reading, I was always really drawn to the web of issues more than any of the ones. Man, the colors in web of, whoever did the colors in web of, was like at 11 when everybody else was at like a 6. There's something about the web of issues just looks so much better than the other ones. And I know it's like just seeing them differently, because in the big reprint book, they all have been sort of touched up.
Digitally inked.
Yeah, but I don't know if those original web ofs were just like, I don't remember if they cost more or whatever, but man, those colors were amazing. Like, just as a technical aspect, they looked great. The other ones looked fine, but then when you got to those web of issues, you're like, oh, I feel bad for the other issues in this because the web of ones look so good.
It's interesting as well what they're doing here, because we're going to talk about Back from the Edge, and they've split they split all 4 books. So 2 books are for Ben and 2 books are for Peter. So these 2 are Web and Spider-Man, I think, are these 2 books, and then the Spectacular and Amazing are for Peter. So it's interesting that they do that. They give you that time with Ben, as opposed to like them just together all the time. They're kind of keeping them separate and distinguish them against each other, offsetting them, so you know what he's about, you know what this character's about, what he's going through, but you also know what Peter's going through in his own books as well, which I think was an interesting choice, considering we've just had the 4 issues with the flip book, with the backup story of Ben's origin, and then we go into these being split over 2 different books. I thought that was a good choice. For some reason, I thought I remembered that the spider on the hoodie was a spray-on, was like spray painted on, like graffiti or something. But again, that might just be the Spider-Verse film, and like Miles, because he spray paints his suit. I thought, that, and I kind of preferred that in a way. I think in my own headcanon, I was like, that's better. And I was kind of like, isn't there going to be like a licensing or copyright issue with the with the museum, and everything? And it made me think of my friend Dan Keatis. He always says, how do we make comic book characters relevant? How do we get them down with the kids? Put them in a hoodie. Always put them in a hoodie. Always put them in the hoodie. Like Superman got put in the hoodie. Dr. Fate got put in a hoodie. He's like, every time they reinterpret, it's like, just put them in a hoodie. It's fine. Smallville, put them in hoodies. It's fine. So that always makes me laugh. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with this. I think the artwork, it's a lot of action. It's very action orientated. I do think the Spider-Man Unlimited issue about the homeless man story, who's a former Stark Enterprises employee, has the worst art of all of these stories we've seen. It's horrific. It's really bad. But it's by 3 or 4 different people, and I was like, nobody wants to do this story. No one is interested in the homeless story, the homeless man story. It's a fine story. I think it's fine. It works. But the artwork is horrific. It is like the bottom barrel of 90s artwork in this one particular issue, which is Spider-Man Unlimited 7, I want to say. So again, it's kind of a backup of a backup Spider-Man comic. There's already we're already dealing with 4 different Spider-Man comics, and now we've got a 5th one that they're now periodically, shoving into this big overarching storyline. But yeah, I think Venom works here. Like Tony was saying, he's been exiled, and what I love about the promise that Peter made to Venom was, Venom had kidnapped his parents, who he didn't know at the time were robots. So he's like, and then he saves Anne Weying, who is the ex-wife of Venom. And he goes, oh, actually, maybe Spider-Man's all right. And he's like, let's make this deal. But Spider-Man is constantly breaking these deals. Like when they first teamed up against Carnage, they were like, I'll we'll make a deal. We'll help you defeat Carnage, and then we're going to go our separate ways, leave you alone. And then he breaks the deal. And then Jonah comments to Spider-Man, he goes, Captain America wouldn't have broken that deal. And he goes, yeah, well, I'm not Captain America, am I? And it's the same here. Like in Lethal Protector, the Venom series, he goes to San Francisco to confront him, and he's like, what are you doing here? We had a deal. And so again, that kind of deal keeps coming up. But I kind of like that, because he knows he's dangerous. He knows he's homicidal. He knows, even though he's doing some good stuff, he's still very much mentally unwell and is a threat out there, not only to himself but to other people as well, no matter how much good he's doing. But yeah, I thought it reminded me as well a little bit of like the X-Men books. When there's a big threat, when there's a new villain, they always go, right, how do we set them up as a big bad? Oh, we'll have them destroy or defeat the most powerful character. Who could that be? Oh, it's the Juggernaut. So when Onslaught comes in, they go, okay, well, he knocks out the Juggernaut. We don't know who that is. Like, he's almost killed the Juggernaut, so he must be powerful. So I feel like this is Marvel and Spider-Man's attempt at doing that. They go, who's the toughest adversary Spider-Man has? Let's have Ben soundly defeat Venom, where, Peter's made deals and kind of looked his way into, defeating him or finding a way to kind of offset the risk. Another thing I really like, speaking of Spider-Sense, Ben's Spider-Sense works against Venom is triggered because he's never had the symbiote on him, so he has an edge over Venom that Peter doesn't have, which I like. And the introduction of the impact webbing and the stingers that he fires as well, which is cool. Another kind of element that, Peter doesn't have. He doesn't have that arsenal of weapons. So yeah, I love that kind of aspect. Again, it's like a little thing. It's like a little kind of continuity thing. I'm a big nerd about some of these things, but these little details really do sing for me when they're used right and they're referencing the right things. Not the Joyce Delaney, Anthony Serber stuff. They're like, we don't want to touch that. But these little moments, I'm like, oh, that's good. I like that. I see what you've done there. You know your stuff. You know the character you're writing. So yeah, I appreciated that. And I think that is probably what does give him the edge, because even Ben says he's rusty. He gets pretty badly injured. He has to go to hospital and get bandaged up. And Ken Ellis is like waiting for somebody to go to the hospital with those injuries so he can unmask him and running. It's interesting. Betty Brant turns up, who works for the Bugle as well at this point. And she mentions that there's been 2 Bugle characters that have died. So Nick Katzenberg and Lance Bannon, one of them died naturally and the other one was killed. And they both were kind of villainous Daily Bugle characters. So I think the fact that she mentions them and then Ken Ellis is introduced is them going, this is going to be the new version of them. Ken Ellis is the new version of those. This kind of dodgy, kind of sleazy reporter kind of character. So I like that kind of, again, nods to the continuity, but it works and, again, sets the stage for this new character and going on and in these storylines and what we're going to see.
I'm glad you said something about the spider sense in the Venom suit, because I thought I was totally forgetting Spider-Man's lore and history when Ben Reilly had his spider sense was reacting to Venom.
Yeah.
But Peter Parker's doesn't. I'm so glad you said that and cleared that up for me. And I agree, that makes perfect sense. That's one of the reasons why I love the Clone Saga and the introduction of Ben Reilly, the introduction of the Scarlet Spider, because they can make those small differences that just change how the hero works, the new gadgets, the new tools, the rusty skills that he's got to grow back into, the enhanced or I should say just augmented spider sense for some of the old villains, and not knowing all of the old rules, not knowing all the old packs and games that Parker and Spider-Man played.
And he doesn't know the weaknesses either of Venom. He doesn't know that the sound is.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it doesn't know Sonic, so he comes up with a new way of, he goes kind of hardcore and he's like getting choked and he's like punching him in the face. It's amazing. And I think it's a real good kind of solidifying of what this character can be, should be, and will be going forward as he becomes eventually, spoilers, the new Spider-Man at some point in the future. But we'll get there.
And I gotta say, and I'm gonna say it. I love Venom and all the symbiotes. I love them all. It's over the top, way too much. But I love an anti-hero, and I especially love the anti-heroes that are crazy and know they're crazy, and
yes,
and have absolutely no way to stop themselves from being crazy. The man eats brains. I mean, come on.
He later substitutes them for chocolate, but yeah, he does eat brains.
Wonderful substitution.
And I appreciate that. And I know a lot of people love him. And it's just we to each everybody's own. We all have our favorite things. Like I love Tim Drake, and I would like Damian to fall off a cliff. That's all I'm saying. And other people are like, Damian's the best, right? You know what I mean? And other people love Damian, and they're like, I'm Team Damian, and I get it. Like, you like what you like. Yeah. And that's okay. Like, I like it best when Babs is with Dick, not when Dick is with everybody else. You're like, I like it best when Peter's with Mary Jane. That's my one true pair. I understand all of these things don't happen until the death of Gwen Stacy, but I'm Team MJ. Sure. Always. And it's just like, there's like certain things you like over other things. And so it's cool. I mean, and again, I understand. I remember when Venom started. I remember the black suit. I had the black suit action figure Spider-Man. That was so badass. Sick. And, and there's a lot of cool stuff that came with Peter in the suit. And I understand what they were doing. And you're getting cosmic. And how do you get the most Because, he's not like we see Daredevil in the next run. And, it's like the street level heroes. And Peter's always that branch between the street level and the cosmic heroes because he's
100%.
so super powered, but he is also just a kid from Queens. And so you're like, what do we do about that? Because he could just go around and beat up bad guys all day long. It's like, that's not a challenge. So I get it. I get where it's coming from, because even like the Rhino really isn't that much of a problem for Peter, right? You're like, ooh, the Rhino, and like
just have him jump out of the way at the last minute, like he does in all the Spider-Man films, and he'll kill himself, hurts himself.
It's not that big a deal. So, you know what I mean? So I get it. I get it all. It just was one of those things. It's like, and I get it. I get he's obviously very popular. I know I'm in the minority here. I mean, he doesn't get all these spin-offs and have his own movie.
You may get a few comments, Tony, that you like Judas Traveler more than you like Venom. You might get.
I'm here for it. Let's go.
Let's hear the discourse.
Yeah.
Let's have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to say about the Exile Returns? Anything else?
I just want to say I understand Tony Holt's love for Ben Reilly even more when you read this. This is like such a great origin story. It's just like, man, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead. It's that struggle that solidifies it. Like I said, the Lost Years sets it up as trying to become a man. The Exile sets it up as trying to become that hero. The constant struggle back and forth, a little on the nose. Definitely a little on the nose, but the flashbacks that he has to Parker's life and the loss of Ben Parker, catching that criminal, it just sets it up so nicely for him to just fall right back into that hero role. Just a chef's kiss of an introduction for the Scarlet Spider.
I agree. And again, going back to him saving the woman, the Brontë sister, who's on the top of the bridge. But again, showing that he can do things that Peter couldn't. He can accomplish things that Peter couldn't. He effectively saves Gwen here because he's had the experience. He knows what not to do and how to control the swing and how to, decelerate, let's say, his swing so it doesn't hurt her and therefore doesn't break her neck or spine or whatever. So again, we're not that he's better than Peter, but to show how he's different from Peter, I think is really important. Here's a question: do you think we did this in the right order? Do you think we did, the Lost Years and everything, even though that a lot of that stuff comes later? Do you think we did that? Does that work now, knowing that this is the in canon first appearances and first kind of showings of that character?
I will say, as a person who read the Chronicles of Narnia in the original published order and prefers that, at the end of the day, before he died, Lewis reordered them, right, and put the Magician's Nephew first because he wanted everybody to understand how Narnia came. When I read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when I was 5, I was like, yep, that's just it. My closets are magic. This is it. Didn't care. Don't care about Narnia. Didn't care. So all of that is to say, this is they've given us this origin. We are the guides for the people who are following along, for your audience. So I do think it's important to do it in that order, to be like, this is the chronological order. We're giving you the origin story. We didn't wait till the end because that just plays with the continuity and the retconning. We're saying like, no, this is the universe they've created in the order, not order of release. But
not
in the
release
timeline
order,
that they
but
wanted.
the chronological order.
Chronological order.
What about you? What about you, Tony Holt?
And I went back and forth in this before we even started, right? When we were trying to make the decision, do we do release order versus chronological order? And I am usually in the camp of release order. I happen to love a good prequel, right? When they go back and they retell the story, especially because I often will start at the end of a book and read the last page before I read it. I love a prequel. I'm like, it's true. Sue me. I don't care. But to your point, to your point, Tony Farina, the Clone Wars is so convoluted and full of crazy retcons and retellings and there's too much, right? Not telling it in chronological order, I think, makes it harder to follow and harder to get into. So I was very much aligned, like, we should actually start from the actual order of how this would go down in the universe, just to make it a little bit easier to wrap your head around.
I agree. Ultimately, I think we've done it in the right order. But yeah, it's interesting, though, to see the evolution of the character from this perspective, like power and responsibility onwards, to see how he's grown in that way, and then retroactively to see how much they add on later as well, which is maybe a year or so down the line, I think, or 6 months or so down the line from where we are now in the current canon, where we are in these stories, which is interesting. But yeah, another really good story. I again, much more kind of action packed, I'd say, much more kind of. There's a bit more of a drive with this one, less of kind of like, where are we, who are we? There's a bit more like, I am who I am, and I'm going to do what I do best, which is, again, successful. One of my favourite images is that one where he confronts Ellis, and he's got the rain dripping down the middle of his mask, the Scarlet Spider mask. Such a cool image. Again, him just hanging on the wall. Again, it just looks so good. But yes, before we go, I just want to go on to the next one. I want to talk about some continuity stuff. So again, first appearance of Ken Ellis, first canon appearance of Kane, first canon appearance of Jacob Raven, first canon mention of Seward Trainer, first appearance of Gabrielle Greer and Gavin Thorpe, minor characters who will appear again. First appearance of Ben's alter ego, the Scarlet Spider, the costume, impact webbing, stingers, and yeah, what else? Yes. I
got a continuity note for you.
Go for it.
I got a continuity for you. Dan, you love a superhero in the rain.
I do. I really do.
You love a superhero in the rain, man.
I like just drenched in rain. I think it's a John Romita thing. I think it's just like superheroes drenched in rain. Maybe, I don't know. It's just something about it because John Romita Jr. does a lot of those. He does a lot of Spider-Man or Daredevil or somebody
in the rain.
Drenched in the rain.
Mm-hmm. I think Daredevil in the rain is a better. I agree. I love it, and Frank does it. Obviously, Frank loves to get
Frank
Batman
Miller, he does it,
He likes to
Sin
get
City
Batman
is
wet.
all Sin City, that.
100%. Sin City, it's always raining. But the thing, Miho on roller skates, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But what I would say is the thing about Daredevil, he can slip.
He could.
I mean, like the rain, right?
I mean, he does have superhuman balance and superhuman agility.
But
so
I'm just saying,
might be less likely.
The rain can mess up with what he can see, right? The rain
can
screw with his stuff. So I think Daredevil in the rain is just a cool.
Well, in the film, it actually helps him see.
In the Affleck film.
Yeah, the Affleck film, it helps him see. So because of the sound it makes, which is based on the research they did. They spoke to a blind advisor, someone who was blind, and says, I like it. I go out when it rains because I can hear all the different the rain hit everything and know kind of, there's a lamppost there, there's a mailbox there, there's a sign there, so that comes from real life, which I think was pretty cool. But yes, I absolutely agree, and we will get on to Daredevil very, very shortly. So but yes, let's do it. Let's go for it. Yes, there's my note about the English period drama lady. So it was something I wanted to bring up. So yes, back from the edge. So our focus goes on to Peter. Now he is still speaking about going back to old haunts, Tony Holt. We do it here as well. So he goes to Midtown High, goes to May's house. He is still trying to find his reason for being Peter Parker, his reason for living and getting his life back, coming back from the edge, so to speak. And we find that he's still lost. He's trying to find, and Mary Jane is also going through the ringer as well. She's coming back from the edge because she is trying to reunite with her family, who she has not abandoned, but has not had much contact with in the past due to the abusive father and her sister falling pregnant quite suddenly, and her partner leaving, her father of her children leaving. So they've had a difficult reunion. So they're seeing kind of literal ghosts of the past. That's how they're depicted in the book through Mark Bagley and the various artists, Sal Buscema in this one. So it's split into two parts. So we have a story that features Nocturne, a very recent kind of adversary anti-hero for Spider-Man, who's quite unique as well and quite interesting. And she finds a kindred spirit in the Puma, who are both kind of divorcing themselves, much like Spider-Man, from who they used to be. They have been forced to become something else, or they've lost their humanity, and they find through Nocturne's empathic powers that Spider-Man is having a similar experience. experience. They're trying to bring him into this group and trying to adopt him into this, group of outsiders, let's say. After that story, we have Spider-Man is still trying to figure out who he is, and he goes to meet Daredevil, who Daredevil at this point is not supposedly Matt Murdock, because Matt Murdock has died, and he's now wearing a new outfit, which people seem to really rag on this outfit, right? And Daredevil in black and in armor and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's a great look for Daredevil. I love the batons, the billy clubs on the forearms. I think it's great. I've got nothing against it. The storyline happened in Fall from Grace, Daredevil Fall from Grace. It's not a great storyline, I'll be honest, but I think the outfit works for me. It did have some amazing covers for that storyline. Again, that's, and brought Elektra back because she hadn't been in Marvel Comics since Frank Miller had killed her, resurrected her, brought her back. She'd been away from the comics for some time, so that storyline brought her back, and she started being used in the 90s and onwards. And also, Daredevil's been in black plenty of times. He's black. This day, the new Born Again series is out, and he's in black in that as well. And he was in black in Shadowland, and then after Secret Wars as well, he was in black. Nobody had an issue then. Nobody had any issue. He's in black originally in the Man Without Fear. He's got in the TV series that he wears that black outfit. He wears black a lot. So I don't know what people's issue was. And I'm like, Daredevil needs armor. He is a regular guy, minus the superhuman balance and agility and stuff. He is a regular guy in the superhuman senses. He is still a regular guy. So, Olympic level athlete, don't get me wrong, but still a regular guy. So armor makes sense to me. And all the depictions of Daredevil outside of the comics have him in some form of armor, leather, whatever, you name it. Anyway, he teams up and he says, what can I do? How do I, either change my life and kill Peter Parker? How do I do that? How do I get him back? And during this period, the Vulture, who killed Peter Parker's robot dad to become young again. It's a long story. Life theft.
That just happens. Yeah.
Life theft and pursuit is. I'll leave links to the breakdown of those storylines in the show notes so you can read those because it's too much to go into right now. But what I was talking about before is life, death, and pursuit. But yeah, so he goes, and during this time, the Vulture teams up with the Owl, who's having a similar identity crisis. He wants to kill off Leland Owlsley and become the Owl. And the Vulture's like, yeah, let's poison people with pigeons and birds and stuff. Why not? What the hell?
Because that's what you do. Two superheroes, two supervillain bird guys, just poison everyone.
Bird guys, birds of a feather, I think they even say in the book. So yes. So guys, what did we think to Back from the Edge? Let's go with Tony Farina. What were your thoughts on this storyline?
I like seeing Scientist Peter. I thought it was an interesting juxtaposition against Ben making all the new cool sciencey things on Ben's side. Peter's doing his science. Like we forget that Peter's smart, right? That he's not a detective, but he is a scientist. So we get to see Peter do some science. There's some really hot, microscope action going on. I do think Matt is the right person here because of that storyline, because you need him to, who else is he going to talk to? It's not like he's going to go to Grimm and be like Grim Hunter and be like, hey, remember that time your dad died and didn't remember all that when I pretend he thought he killed me, but he didn't remember all that? Let's talk. So, it needs to be somebody who he can trust. It needs to be Matty. I think we all know that Matt, that was hard for Matt to do because he's, he loves his life and he loves the people in his life. So I think it was a good person to have. You can't have it be Bucky's not back yet in continuity, right? So there's nobody really to talk to. So I think it's good. They're both street level guys. They've been around for a while. Frank wouldn't have been the right person. So I'm here for all of it. I think it's a really interesting story. I do think, just as a side note, it's very generational. I think we may be, like, I'm older than you guys, but I almost wonder, like, a kid today, if a 17-year-old picked this up, could they know what the hell Mary Jane is saying because she writes in script?
Oh, yeah, the cursive.
People read cursive.
Yeah,
so that's really fascinating. Rereading it again before this, I was like, oh, right, I forgot all of Mary Jane's notes, like her internal notes, and like she's writing letters to Peter are in script.
Even I'm struggling.
Yeah,
to be
well,
fair. But I think that's maybe the inking in the way they've done it.
And
But
it could be,
even
right,
I'm
and it's
like
just the way that it
just
came
like
through.
squinting.
So, but I do think, and again, because I'm Team MJ, so I'm okay with that. I could see people maybe disliking it because it is so MJ heavy, but because, like you said, it is a back from the edge. So this is less action packed and more let's sit around and talk about our feelings. But I do think that's important for where we are, and I think having Nocturne and Puma, as we ugly Americans say,
Puma, as the English would say.
Have
this
that,
English
like,
person anyway.
have those moments. So I feel like this is a good juxtaposition, and I could imagine if you're reading them all in real time, you'd be like, oh, I've got this action with Ben, and then because remember these were all coming out one a week.
Yes.
So you're reading Ben, then you're reading Peter, then you get another Ben, then you get another Peter, then you get another Ben. So like you at no point in time do you feel like the way we're reading them is different like than the way they were released. And so I think it works really as a great juxtaposition, thinking of it in the real time readers. So I like it. I don't know what the Spider-Verse says about it, if they like it or don't like it, but I thought it was pretty good.
What about you, Tony Holt?
Stuck on mute here. Sorry. First of all, love the Daredevil armor.
Yes.
I am always impressed when Daredevil pops up in a Marvel comic, because he is that street level hero, because he is like the most I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Daredevil's the most underrated. Daredevil is the most underrated. Street level hero, Olympic level athlete, not a ton of superhuman powers, blind as a bat, and still kicking ass and taking names at every single turn. Love when he pops up. Love when he teams up with Spider-Man and gives him that like street cred. Love the armor suit, Spider-Dan, for everything that you said. Yeah, he actually would need some kind of armor, right?
Yeah. Like these villains
and
are superhuman as well. Like the Owl is superhuman, the Vulture is superhuman. I mean, it's technology based, the Vulture, but it's still superhuman strength. So you need something, surely.
And they get armor, so why can't Daredevil have it, right? And of course, it lines up with my other major comic book team that I love at the time, the New Warriors. Well, Mark Bagley started on the New Warriors, didn't he? He did those early issues. He did the Joyce Delaney annual that we did, Tony. He was working on that as well. The Evolutionary War. For me, he is like top tier, top 5 at least Spider-Man artists of all time for me, Mark Bagley. He did Ultimate Spider-Man as well. Gives Spidey that big bulbous head, which I love. That big, he's got the massive eyes. Yeah, I could, he did the Thunderbolts, another series I really love. He's top tier for me. Still as an artist to this day. He's still, speaking of the Black Armor, it made a comeback recently in the last year. There was a storyline where he wears it again, and John Romita Jr. does the art, and also there was a storyline where the original writer D.G. Chichester comes back, and it was called it's a mini series called Daredevil Black Armor, and I was like, yeah, of course, bring it back. Why not? It's great. It's good look. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in general, in this story, it was good. I like to see Peter Parker warring with his identity. I like to see a feral Parker. I like it when the spider comes out. You could have left Nocturne and Puma out for me. I'm gonna say it. Like I love the niche characters. I feel like Nocturne and Puma, I feel like they serve such little purpose. We could have had more Spider-Man and Daredevil. Like you could have just used Daredevil as that foil, as that struggle between the two, between the Spider and Peter, between being at the edge and coming back. I would have loved to see more of that. You could have left Nocturne and Puma out.
I get it. I think because they were previously established, I agree with you. I think I could have done with more Daredevil, the Owl, and the Vulture, because that feels more classic Marvel comics to me. I like that these are slightly newer characters. Puma's a really interesting character. He was first introduced during that alien costume saga. He was like a mercenary vigilante type character, and then he you turned out he was rich, and he's part of this breeding program to make this ultimate like Native American warrior, this indigenous warrior. And then he kind of becomes a villain. He's very enigmatic. He buys the Daily Bugle at one point. He runs the Daily Bugle, which is like, okay, sure. Like, it's almost like they never really knew what to do with him or how to approach him. And at this point, he is feral. He is a savage animal creature because he's almost been killed. He's almost died because the police shot him. And yeah, it's kind of, I think they could have put, you could have had Vermin here. Vermin, I'm a big fan of. He was in the previous story, Power and Responsibility, but he's cured, and then he's not cured, and then he is. And I like that character. And Vermin actually created Nocturne, so he used the same machines that Baron Zemo used to create him to create Nocturne. She was a police detective, and she was trying to hunt down Vermin who killed a partner, and then he finds her, tries to transform her into something like him, doesn't work, seemingly dies, throws her in a river, and then she wakes up as this kind of demonic character with empathic abilities. And it makes sense to me that, there's these weird outsiders, and she uses her empathic abilities to try and bridge the gap between the two characters. Because, again, they both can't stop fighting each other. They cannot stop beating on each other for 2 minutes. And they're almost so similar in a way. And it takes that moment. And then we see the Thomas Fireheart alter ego re-emerge from the Puma, and he walks away. And Nocturne, and I like that question at the end, like, there's a moment where Puma injures Nocturne, and he's like, oh my god, what have I done? Runs away. And then Spidey's trying to find somewhere to take her, doesn't want to go to a hospital, wants to go back to her apartment, but they find the apartment is inhabited by a new family building a crib, which I thought was a really kind of poignant moment. And he's like, life moves on, life changes, and if you're not there for the people in your life, they will move on, they will leave you behind, because you're not there. Which, again, some great little touching things, but again, ultimately I do agree. I think I'd rather have had an extended Daredevil, Owl, and Vulture story than these two slightly odd characters. And like Nocturne, I don't know if she turns up again. She's interesting, she's got an interesting origin. Again, I like the diversity that they're trying to introduce, a lot more female villains, a lot more people of color. I like that they're at least attempting that, as opposed to, it's, the white guys again, all the white guys again. So yeah, I like that, but yeah, I agree. I think I'd much rather have had more Daredevil, and the expansion on their friendship and where they're both at, which is interesting. But yeah, Tony Farina, give us a bit more.
Yeah. Well, I would just say, it would have been an interesting choice to do too. And nowadays, it would have crossed over into Daredevil's issues instead of it just being all Spider-Man. And they would have to sell a couple more issues. It would have been like 6 or 8 parts, so that you would have had it all. No, I hear that. I agree. I do think, of the 3 we've done, this is the weakest of the 3. It's good. Yeah. But I do think it's good for the different reasons. It's almost like a novel. It's like the novelization of when Peter
got the melodrama.
Yeah.
You've got the melodrama.
And that's okay. And I'm okay with that, like I said, because I'm trying to think of it in the context of imagining reading it and real time. I think I probably would work better as almost like a breathing period, because you think of those Ben issues, it's like nonstop go, and there's like all this going on, and then you're like, whew, okay, what's up with Peter? Meanwhile,
you take a dip. Like it might be necessary in a way for us to maybe just have, like you said, a breather and just kind of.
And we didn't we're not doing it that way. We're doing the arcs, which is fine, and that's how the collections are. So it's of the 3 we've done today, it is definitely, I would rank it third. I would put the Exile Returns, Power and Responsibility in this. That's how I'd rank them if we were ranking them as like what I found the most enjoyable and the most important, I think. Now, this has great import for Peter and MJ's relationship, so that makes it very powerful, and it does get him back to being Spider-Man, which is important, but then also probably why it pisses everybody off later when he isn't Spider-Man. And you're like, wait, why did we do that?
Yeah.
But you could also argue this is the moment when he realized he has to be Peter. And now that Ben's there, he doesn't have to be Spider-Man anymore. So you could say this is the groundwork. I don't know. We'll see how we'll see when we get there.
Yeah, within the story, we Spider-Man is poisoned. There's this experimental military poison the Vulture's got hold of, and the idea is he wants to kill off the remainder of Adrian Toomes and be the Vulture, and he's trying to convince the Owl the same thing. So they have to kill off the previous people in their lives in New York to fully embrace their bird personas. Spidey gets poisoned, and a vial of the antidote, supposed antidote, is given to the Owl, and he has to make the decision to either save an old business associate or let him die. And ultimately, his indecision lets the guy die. And in the end, he decides actually he wants to be Leland Owlsley, his human alter ego. So he's helped Spider-Man stop the other poison birds from getting out there. So Spidey gets given the antidote by the Owl. He drinks it, and he realizes it's just water. Daredevil, swings away, and he finally wants to live, only as he's dying, which I thought was kind of poignant, and we see that kind of mirrored with the parallel life of Mary Jane as she's finally made peace with her family and her abusive dad, which I think they paint the abusive dad quite well, actually. I think he could easily be a villain and be like despicable, but he clearly is kind of not irredeemable. There is something about him that there's something there to save and to help and to re-put together again, put all the pieces back together again in that family. So yes, I did enjoy this, but I agree it's not perfect, but I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. Is there anything else we want to say before we come to a close?
I think that you're right. I when I look back at the merits of this story, it is hearing and seeing more of MJ's backstory and better understanding her motivations, right? Those are the small beats that make such a difference, that I think makes any story arc really rich and really brings you into that world, right? I love MJ as a character. I always wish, when I read so much about MJ, or when I read about Spider-Man, I always wish I could learn more about MJ, because she's the great woman behind the great man, right? And again, it's one of those overlooked but critical characters that are part, that make the universe whole, that allow the hero to stand and do battle, that give him the reason to fight. So getting an opportunity to hear more about MJ, learn more about her backstory, things that I didn't know at the time until I read the full story, seeing where she came from, the strength that she has and has built to become who she is, and it makes sense how she can deal with the crazy life of being the wife of a superhero, right? Yeah. Like it's an amazing beat, a nice little insight into that character, and I think that is the strength of this. It makes the story whole. It gives you something to latch into that gives you a deeper resonance and better understanding through all the plot twists and turns that break your brain.
I think that's what we've been missing in the previous two stories, is more of that personal drama, the soap opera stuff, the stuff Stan Lee made comics famous for. So yeah, couldn't agree more. Anything from you, Tony, Farina?
No, I think that's true. I just think it's like there are certain characters who need other people for them to work best, and that's why people love Peter, is because he has people who count on him, and most importantly, he has people that he counts on. And so when you see his two most important people, the fridging of Aunt May and the struggles that MJ's going through.
Poor Aunt May.
Poor Aunt May, man. So
poor Anna Watson as well. Like, she's like,
right. Everybody's got
she
it.
does
so
the right thing.
It's important. Yeah, I think it's just really great, because that's what makes Peter special. Is he's not Logan, right? He needs people. Like Logan, whatever, blah blah. But Peter's like, no, these are my people, and I gotta care about them. And so I think it's really great.
100%. Well, we've come to an end. I've really enjoyed these stories, really enjoyed talking with you. Again, we can only go into so much detail, so please let us know in the comments if there's something we didn't mention or something you'd like to talk to us about. It's been great again. Thank you again, guys. You can find us at our various social medias. I will link them all below. Don't worry, they're in the show notes. If you didn't hear them verbally last time, you'll get them verbally next time, but check the show notes anyway. They're all there. They're all good. But yes, we will continue this next time. We'll get more tangled into this web. I can't remember what storylines are coming up, but they're going to be interesting. I bet you
Ben Reilly's in them.
I bet you. I guarantee it. 100%.
I'm
You know
going
what?
to guess. I'm just
I
going to
bet
guess.
I will put all my money down that he will be in there somewhere.
Amazing. I can't wait.
But yes, I think. Oh yes, Web of Life, Web of Death, and something else that I can't
With
remember.
The Ak-
Yes,
Yeah.
Kane, Grim Hunter. We're going to see a lot of that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's another storyline I can't quite remember. I think we're covering as well. But yes, Web of Life, Web of Death, definitely, and the other one, whatever that is. But yes, we will catch you in our own Web of Life next time. Take care, and as always, prepare for Prattle.